James Creedon. James, obviously observing what's happening online. Tell us what you found.
All right. Well, we were looking in the last hour, Mark, at some of the cartoons, some of the expressions of solidarity by political cartoonists and such. I'll pick up where I left off. There was this cartoon here from Dilem, who is an Algerian cartoonist, and what he is pointing to in this cartoon is the increasingly frequent number of slogans, if you like, that express solidarity with any given city or site of a terrorist attack. And the Je suis slogan, which started with the Charlie Hebdo attacks in January of last year. And terrorism has struck once again, being the headline. It's becoming a little bit too familiar for
the character
many.
saying, can you make a little room for me?
That's right, indeed. It's a horrifically frequent these days, and that is the slogan that has been going all around social media in the last day in remembrance. Now,
that's beautiful. This is beautifully defiant, isn't it? For a number of reasons.
That's right. Now, the sentence there below is say, and I pee upon them. Now, what is that all about? I was actually going to show you this later, but I may as well pick up on it now. One of the symbols of Brussels is a little statue of a boy having a pee, and it's sort of a fun little statue in the centre of Brussels, and a site for many tourists who go to the city, and it's a fountain, and it is one of the symbols of the city, and I suppose that
mannequin piss, is that what he's called? Yeah. I'm not swearing, everybody, that's his name.
That's what it's called, and frequently it is a source of humour, and here I suppose cartoonists are using it to make a statement politically. I think
quite right too.
A picture speaks 1,000 words. In this particular case. That one has been getting a lot of shares online today as well. That's funny, isn't it? And I suppose picking up on it, it sort of echoes some of the images we saw after the Paris attacks, where or the Charlie Hebdo attacks. The pen is mightier than the sword. Love conquers hatred. All of that sort of stuff. Now, what else do we have?
We're getting just hidden by our caption there. We're getting peace and love, or piss and love, as it comes out. It's the
That's right.
And again, a pun on the name of the statue.
It was all over social media today, and then of course the more I suppose just generic images of the flag and in the shape of a heart and all that kind of stuff, and that of course was the Eiffel Tower in the colours of the Belgian flag today. So just to get back to some of the other stuff I was going to show you, Mark, because that all is very neutral solidarity, if you like. Well, what about this? Now, there's that, right? It's not what I was looking for, but we'll speak about that first.
The Belgians known for eating lots of chips, apparently.
That's right. A little message
from... That's a chip giving the finger, yeah?
A little message from the entire nation to those cowards. So a lot of defiance and anger on social media as well. This is a word we wouldn't normally be showing on television, Mark, but honestly, it's everywhere today. If I'm getting myself in trouble by showing that, I'll put my hands up. But really, it's representative of what people feel.
We're an intelligent programme. We deal with things very openly, and I think it's fair to show that, James. Go ahead.
Well, with such a what would you say, a frequent amount of attacks in the last number of months and the last year or so, people are getting tired of it. This is a political commentator who I follow on Facebook, who published this on his Facebook page publicly, Yasha Munk, based in New York. When I heard about the horrifying news from Brussels this morning, I had a reaction that was quite different from after the Paris attacks. Not a sudden wave of surprise and shock, but more a diffuse feeling of sadness and resignation. Terror in the heart of Europe is now normal. We are getting used to this horror. We're getting used to it quick, and that is itself shocking. I've seen a lot of comments like that today, Mark. People saying there's almost a drill now. When this happens, municipalities know how to respond. You put up the colours that are appropriate. There's a public square somewhere which becomes a space for solidarity, and it's just becoming a little bit too familiar. What else do we have? This is a hashtag also that we saw after the Paris attacks and that was being used in Brussels. Porte ouverte, open doors. Now, public transport was disrupted. People sometimes couldn't get from A to B, couldn't get home, etc. So this was basically ordinary people offering to open their doors to strangers who were affected by the attacks. There were a number of other hashtags like that. Ik wil helpen, which means in Flemish, I want to help, and you had the same in English and in French as well. So a lot of expressions of solidarity. We saw Marcus Carlson earlier at the Place de la Bourse, or the stock exchange square or plaza in the centre of the city, which has become a sort of a spontaneous site for expressions of solidarity, which are being written on the pavement in chalk. It is very original, really, and you can see here lots of different statements and in many different languages. In fact, Brussels, of course, a very multicultural, kind of cosmopolitan city, and so lots of images of that going around social media as well. Tintin, one of the most famous characters to emerge from the tradition of comic books in Belgium, and he is being used indeed to express all sorts of different messages. People are not happy, and that is clearly coming through in some of the images on social media. What else do we have, Mark? We have this is Le Monde doing a bit of fact checking. There were tweets today, as if things weren't confusing and upsetting enough, tweets going up from certain unsavoury accounts on Twitter, saying that there were other places in the city where...
Do we know whose account this is, James, that was spreading these rumours?
Well, it is a jihadist account, an Islamic fundamentalist account. Some of these accounts are on occasion taken offline by Twitter, but Twitter has a tradition of not censoring.
It's one of the problems of Twitter, and one of the great things about Twitter. You can have your say, but obviously you can't control who has their say.
That's right.
And how they use their say.
That's right. And only recently Twitter has started to take down certain accounts, but they resisted that for a long time. For example, Facebook is much more quick to censor material. So these are tweets basically saying that there were explosions or the bombs have been placed in the European Commission.
Claims there are bombs placed basically all over the place in Brussels, which was a lot of nonsense just designed to sort of stir up terror.
To add even more fear to the mix. And Libération saying that you can actually do, for those who are sort of familiar with various different techniques, Google Chrome, if you use that search engine, you can actually do reverse image searches. And there was one image today.
Reverse image search.
I actually haven't even tried to do it, but I'll take Libération's word for it. This is an image of a NASA rocket explosion, and it was being attributed to the sad events at the airport in Brussels today. That was not an authentic image, and you can actually do a reverse image search, which would show you that it's in fact a NASA rocket explosion. Anyway, as if
that is interesting, because it happens all too often. Anytime there is, for instance, during the conflict in Syria, I've had various people contact me via social networking and say, how can this happen and you don't report it, you don't show this image on television? And I can recall having seen in the background that it's actually not the place that has been bombed, because, you know, if you're talking about Raqqa, for instance, the headquarters of the Islamic State, you're getting no images out of Raqqa because no one can actually go there and do the job of journalism because they'll have their heads cut off. Right. You know, but obviously someone else is feeding an image in order to create sympathy for the people there and the Islamic State.
That's right.
And it's all this thing. So if there's a way to cross-check the pictures, then great. Let's hope more people can use it.
So you get anything and everything on social media. You're getting the expressions of solidarity. You're getting people with putting up misinformation, just cynical behaviour, really awful, and the whole spectrum, Mark. So it's all there.
James, thank you very much indeed. James Creedon, our social media analyst, all-round good egg, basically. Thank you, sir, for joining us. It's a pleasure to always have you on board.